Hey guys, how you doing? I'm sideways. All right, is this better? My phone's not loaded. Okay, all right, let's get right into it. Sorry about the technical difficulties. We'll get them ironed out. So first things up, I don't know if you guys saw this news yesterday, but I guess the apple does fall pretty far from the tree. Tim Kaine's son was arrested for rioting. He was, let's see, what's his name? His name is Linwood Kaine. And he's the son of Hillary Clinton's running mate, Tim Kaine. And he was arrested for a fight at a pro-Trump rally. He's the youngest son of Hillary Clinton's running mate, Tim Kaine. And he was arrested after disrupting the peace at a pro-Trump rally in Minnesota. So this is what they do. We've had they're having a peaceful protest or a peaceful rally in support of the President of the United States. And what do these people do? They come up and they violently disrupt it. And the authorities did the right thing there, and they arrested them. Now, Tim Kaine wasn't the only one. He was one of 6 radical progressives that were arrested on suspicion of a felony charge of rioting near the Minnesota State Capitol on Saturday. And it wasn't just a counter-protest. That's not what these people do anymore. Everybody has a right to speak their mind and say what they want to say. The problem is when you resort to violence because you don't like what somebody else is saying. And this isn't a new phenomenon, right? I mean, this is something that's really swept the nation. And we saw this. What was it? It was a school called Middlebury College, and they were upset because a professor at the university invited a speaker that was controversial on campus to come and debate him. Now, this was a liberal professor that invited him, and a true liberal, I would add, because he's not afraid to debate someone. He's not afraid to have a real conversation with somebody that he vehemently disagrees with. And there's a great quote on this, and it was written by John Stuart Mill, and it said, "Truth would lose something by their silence," in reference to people that you try to oppress. Just because you disagree with somebody, no matter how right you think you are, even if you are absolutely right, by losing that juxtaposition, by losing that comparison of 2 different ideas, whether it's left or right, pro-choice or pro-life, whatever it is, if you lose the discussion, if you lose the frame of reference in the conversation, in the debate, then you're smothering speech. And that's what happens on these college campuses. And increasingly, liberals they're not the lily whites, like, softies that progressives are portrayed as or have been for a long time. They're resorting to violent, communist tactics to disrupt the peace because they can't win elections. And that's what this all comes down to. If you guys read anything about Harris, you know what I'm talking about. And and what was really concerning about that Middlebury assault was they didn't even assault the speaker that they didn't like. No, they assaulted the liberal professor who invited this guy to campus to have a rational debate. And if they had just sat there and listened to the debate, sat there and let the conversation play out, they may have been very happy with what they heard. Maybe they would have even learned something. I'm not saying that they would have agreed with him, but one thing that we're missing in today's time is empathy. Too many of us don't understand the other side. And I think this is particularly true for progressives. I think it's particularly true from the media. They don't understand the Trump movement. They just don't. That's why they didn't see it coming. And that's what happens when you have media companies. That's what happens when you have elite college campuses that only, they talk about diversity, but they only fill their ranks with people that think like them. And so when you only hear opinions that are just like your own, you don't realize that there's a whole other country out there. You don't see movements like Brexit. You don't see movements like the inauguration or the election of Donald Trump. You don't see these things coming. And so it doesn't just do the entire country a disservice when people try to violently shut down discourse. It does those movements a lot of disservice. We might even find a lot of common ground. If we started talking more, we might realize that we have more in common than we don't. And I'm speaking from personal experience. When I first met Dennis, I was a Sanders supporter that also liked what Donald Trump was saying, particularly about trade. And I sat on set with him, and we talked about political ideas, and we found a lot of commonality between what he thought and I thought. And if you looked at us on paper, you would have said, these two guys had nothing in common. We had everything in common. We had the same concerns about the trajectory of the American economy. We had the same concerns about the rate at which our jobs have been sent overseas. We had the same concern about education. We had the same concern about our borders. We had the same concern about national security. And because we talked through these problems, we came to consensus. And when I saw that Bernie was moving, more and more radically, he wasn't going to be who I hoped he was, and when I saw that there was no way I was going to vote for Hillary Clinton, I really threw my support behind Donald Trump. There are millions of people that are in my same position, and it's not just going from supporting Democrats to supporting Trump. It's beyond that, and it's about empathy. And anyway, so when I was with you guys on Monday or Tuesday? When I was with you guys on Tuesday, I was telling you that ExxonMobil was about to invest literally billions of dollars in the American economy to produce high-quality jobs for the American middle class that would add up to, the average pay on each of the jobs that they were creating was over $100,000 a year. That's a great-paying job, particularly in places where they're creating these jobs, in the Gulf. A part of the country that has been largely left behind, a part of the country that's rich in natural resources if we just took advantage of them intelligently. And it would be to the benefit of not just the American economy and our energy independence, but it would be to the great benefit of the people that live there. The millions of people, the millions of Americans that live in states like Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, that need good, high-paying jobs. They don't need to work at Foot Locker. I'm not knocking you if you work at Foot Locker. But it's hard to sustain a family on that kind of income. But these good ExxonMobil jobs, $100,000 a year plus, that's great. Well, since then, I think I'm going to keep doing these walk and talks because every time I do a walk and talk, Trump's got some more great news about jobs being created. And the latest was Samsung looking to do a U.S. expansion would add up at first at around $300 million and would lead to the creation of potentially, over the course of the lifetime of this expansion, thousands of jobs. And where are these jobs coming from? They're coming from Mexico. They're coming from Mexico. So Samsung obviously produces a lot of household goods, household appliances like they produce air conditioning units, they produce refrigerators, they produce washing machines and dryers. They're going to move the manufacture of many of those goods from Mexico, a place where the American economy wouldn't realize any of the benefit of that manufacturing, to the United States. And in the process, create many, many jobs and sell those goods both to the United States, to consumers in the United States, but also around the world. So all in all, to start, it would be about 500 jobs that are created with the potential for thousands over the course of time. And so this isn't the first time. Samsung's been looking to do this for just a few months here. And they had initial discussions with folks in Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, Ohio, and South Carolina. And South Carolina is a strong contender. It's actually my home state. And South Carolina has proven that it's willing to compete for good-paying jobs. That's what they did with the Boeing plant. And it's great. It's great. And this comes on the heels of, I think it was last week when I was doing the walk and talk, I was telling you guys that LG is also doing the same thing. They're bringing many manufacturing jobs back to the United States from elsewhere, also producing home appliances. But this one's going to be in Tennessee. So they're investing, because of Trump in both cases, they're also investing about $300 million and employing about 600 jobs, 600 people to start. So, look, MAGA's not all talk. It's amazing what you can do when you have a president of the United States who just picks up the phone and calls the CEOs of major corporations and says, what do we need to do to cut a deal? What do we need to do to get you to bring these jobs back? It just takes a little bit of threat. We've said that we're going to renegotiate NAFTA, that it has disadvantaged the American middle class for so long. And so we're going to renegotiate these deals because they haven't advantaged the American people. So it's not all talk. They're real results that you can see. The next thing that I wanted to bring up is about Trump's plan for infrastructure. He's planning to invest over $1 trillion in the American infrastructure. That means that we're going to renovate roads, bridges, airports. We're even going to build trains in parts of the country that have extremely high density. So in a place like New York or Houston or Atlanta or Charlotte, where you need to get some people off the roads, we're going to invest in roads, but we're also going to invest in some rapid transit. In parts of the country, like in California, where people are looking to get from San Jose to San Francisco, it doesn't always make sense to get in a car. Sometimes it makes sense to get in a train. We're going to invest in trains there. Our airports in this country are embarrassing. As somebody that's traveled all over the world, I can tell you that it's amazing how both parties in this country have let those things fall apart. Airports are really important to the American economy. It's how so much business gets done, not just in terms of tourism, but really in terms of business. So it's something that we should invest in, and it creates a lot of jobs. So, he's moving forward on it. He's starting to articulate how we're going to move forward on it. He's going to give states 90 days to start projects, so they're going to have to move very quickly. Now, why is Trump doing this? Well, because he ran on it. He said that the American infrastructure is falling apart. It's embarrassing. It's a shame. And he wants to be able to run again in 3 years and a few months change and say, look at what I built. I didn't just build the wall. I'm building all these bridges. I'm building all these roads. I'm investing in you, and I'm putting millions of Americans back to work. I'm building pipelines. I'm laying fiber across the country so that we have better internet to every household. This is what he's working on, and he's doing it through not just federal funds, because obviously we don't have unlimited resources at the federal level. He's bringing private interests to the table too, through tax credits and other things. If we can find creative ways to pay for this stuff, I'd rather have it paid for creatively than not paid for at all, or not done. For too long, we've let this gridlock take place between Democrats and Republicans where nothing gets done. And he's not going to let this drag out. States are going to have 90 days to submit their plans and prove that they can effectively execute a project. And if they can't do it, they're not going to get the money. So we've got a new sheriff in town. This is no joke. The next thing that I wanted to talk about with you guys is a little bit of drama that's taken place between Breitbart and the White House. So apparently, according to Business Insider, there have been some disagreements because Breitbart, or editors at Breitbart, don't necessarily like what Trump's doing with the Affordable Care Act, and that tensions between one of the editors at the Washington office of Breitbart has been in a feud with Steve Bannon. Now, this is interesting because Steve Bannon used to basically run Breitbart. And so they're ratcheting up attacks against the White House. They're not attacking Trump, they're attacking the White House, and they're attacking Bannon to a degree, but particularly Reince Priebus, the chief of staff. And they've even accused Bannon of being guilty of treason. So this is just a spat. I think it's a distraction. I don't blame the White House. I don't blame Bannon. I don't blame Trump. I ask, what is Breitbart doing? What are they doing? President Trump has clearly articulated that the piece of legislation that's been put forth this week on repealing the Affordable Care Act is the first of 3 steps. He's clearly articulated that this is what needs to be done to quickly move forward now, to help many of the millions of American families that just can't afford to exist under the burden of Obamacare. Many of the businesses that can't afford the mandate. So there are things that we can look to do in terms of long-term renegotiation of the Affordable Care Act, but this is a starting point. And so I don't know what Breitbart's doing. I don't know why they're picking a public fight. Here's what really got me. When Breitbart started throwing a hissy fit, or this editor at Breitbart, started throwing a hissy fit. Trump's White House said, okay, look, guys, calm down. We'll give you some interviews. You can come and spend time with us in the White House. We'll even give you an interview with Donald Trump in the Oval Office. So you can clearly understand what we're doing, where we're taking. And that wasn't enough. And so I'm not sure what their play is, but I feel like the Trump White House is doing everything in their power to play nice with these guys. So Breitbart better watch it. You know, I've got nothing against these guys. I know many of the writers there, but they're not the movement. They're not the movement. Trump's the movement. And if they start to overplay their hand, at the backlash they received from the Trump train. So the next thing that I wanted to go to here, and this was some good news, and it actually tells you the power of the MAGA movement, of the Trump train. Ivanka Trump's clothing company, her numbers have skyrocketed in the month of February. So obviously you guys remember Nordstrom and all these other companies were they were boycotting her. They were giving her a hard time. They were harassing her because she's the daughter of Donald Trump, which I thought was really unfair. Well, you guys have apparently stepped up, and the sales of her perfume and her clothes and her shoes are up 346% month over month. And so she went from being ranked number 555 to in the single digits. So her fashion brand is, I mean, obviously she's not involved in it day to day, but it's doing quite well. And so I think that's shown that, people aren't going to let her be harassed. People love Ivanka, Democrat and Republican. People love her. And if people, if these big brands think that they appease progressive interests, sorry guys, I got a call there. Appease progressive interests by mistreating her, I think they've got another thing coming. It makes a lot of sense to actually support her. And I think that's why we saw today that Ivanka's brand and her merchandise is still going to be carried by Macy's, Bloomingdale's, and Dillard's. And in fact, several of those companies are actually expanding their offerings of Ivanka Trump stuff. So that's awesome. That's awesome. The last thing I wanted to talk about here is Ramos. So he was on, the anchor of Univision. He was on Tucker Carlson's show. And you can go and you can watch the clip on DennisMichaelLynch.com. And it was really inflammatory. And it was racist. Ramos said, quote, "Whites will become a majority in this country. This is our country." Whites may become a minority in this country. Okay. We'll see. Whatever. I'm not interested in debating demographics. Okay. I am a little bit concerned that it's become the norm that it's okay to say that this is anybody's country. Any one race's country. If African Americans said that, people would take issue. If white people said that, people would take issue. Why this anchor at Univision, Jorge Ramos, is able to go on national television and scream this kind of racial and incendiary language is beyond me. Maybe I misunderstood him. Maybe I should give him the benefit of the doubt. But I think there is a double standard, and Tucker pushed back on him pretty hard. You should go watch the clip. I'm not going to do it justice trying to recap it here, but I wanted to raise it with you guys because I've realized more and more that the media is able to take Donald Trump out of context and make it sound like he said truly outrageous, racist things, and to spin his words. And when you have one of the leading advocates for Latinos in this country stand up and say this sort of vitriol and able to do it unscathed, is it's an unnerving point in our media. So go ahead and check that out. It's on DennisMichaelLynch.com. It kind of makes me sad. It kind of makes me sad that this is the point that we're to in this country, and that I opened this conversation talking about empathy and trying to understand where the other is, but what I've noticed is the rhetoric is getting more violent. It's getting more out of hand. It's getting less civilized. And when you have leaders, and sometimes Trump's guilty of it. Sometimes I'm guilty of it. Sometimes somebody like Jorge Ramos is guilty of it. So, none of us are perfect, but some of us have a track record of this, and it's sort of a concerning inflection point in modern American politics that we stopped listening to each other. And so anyway, with that, I really want to thank you guys for sticking with us through these technical difficulties. We're working on some exciting new stuff here at the studio. Obviously, we had some issues with Facebook that were beyond our control, but we're working those out, and we're glad to have you guys, and we thank you for putting up with our mess while we get this in line. If you love what we're doing, and you want to see us hire even more great talent, and if you want to see us build out the studio even more, go to DennisMichaelLynch.com/donate. Dennis will be back really, really soon. He is flying back, I believe, from Las Vegas tonight or tomorrow. And so he'll be back with you guys maybe this weekend or maybe tomorrow. We'll see. I'll keep you guys updated. We'll post to Facebook. We'll push it out on the app when he's back. I know you guys can't wait to hear how everything went out there on the trial and how his I told you guys on Tuesday that he's out there getting footage for the next documentary. So I'm sure he'll be able to share some of the details with that with you guys as well. So anyway, I will be with you really, really soon.